Good evening, and thank you to the Danville and San Ramon Express for holding this candidates forum and Tina for moderating. I'd like to leave you tonight, when you go home, with 5 pieces of information. 1, I'm a local person born and raised here in the county. 2, that I bring 30 years career, business career, to this race. I have decades of community service, and in addition, I have spent the last 7 years serving as your elected representative on the Contra Costa Community College District Board, currently serving as its president. And the last thing I want to leave you with is some of my priorities for serving as your supervisor. I grew up in Orinda and Moraga area, rode horses in fields. I had my first job as a Contra Costa Times paper girl, and I worked through the last 35 years to pay for my college, to build my career, and to contribute and help support my family. I have 2 sons, one who's at Oregon State right now, go Beavers, and one at Marijuana, a sophomore. Second, I would like you to hear a little bit more about my 30-year career. 20 of that was spent in business, 10 in corporate working for Shell in Texaco, and 10 as a small business person. I started my own business and I grew it into a 3-person communication firm. I was the managing partner, so I had to make payroll, pay workers' comp, manage cash flow, make sure that the payroll got out on time. That's real business experience. Third, the experience that comes with a lifetime of community volunteerism, from being a respite foster care parent with my husband, helping to start the Boys and Girls Club of Carson, and 18 years of working in economic development organizations. And lastly, I bring 7 years on the Community College Board, changing the situation from one of less than 5% in the General Reserve Fund to more than 23%. We have fiscally managed the Contra Costa Community College District in such a way that I think I can bring good experience to the college.
Okay, I think we're...
To the Board of Supervisors. I'm waiting for that bell.
The bell, yeah.
Oh, I didn't hear it, I'm sorry.
It was a wimpy bell.
It was a wimpy bell. Okay, I will continue more later.
Okay, thank you. And I apologize for getting ahead of myself with the question. But because Candace went first with the 2-minute opening, we'll let Tommy answer this one first, and I will reread it for you. Both of you have stated that the county needs to reprioritize funding in its budget. How will you approach this? Please give specific examples.
Yes, I think one thing that's very important about the county is that there are 2 different functions and we can't blend the 2. The county's role, 1, is to provide local government services, and that's police, fire, and infrastructure, your roads, your drains, the basics that local government is to support. That has a funding pot. The other is, on behalf of the state, we are mandated to provide such services as the county hospital, some public health functions, a number of employee human health and services programs for the state. And one of the reprioritizing I would do is ensure that we don't continue to blend and mingle those buckets. We need to preserve our local government funding for police, fire, and infrastructure. And we need to ensure that the state is funding the programs it's asking us to do on its behalf. Right now, there's between 40 and 60 million, I've looked over the last 5 or 6 years, per year being taken out of the general fund that should be going for police and fire, and it's going into the county hospital. We need to find efficiencies, technology efficiencies at a minimum that can make up very easily for that $1 billion budget at the county hospital by using that 40 million over to employ more police officers, firefighters, and other folks in public safety and infrastructure.
We definitely need to restructure, and I share the concern that we have been underfunding law enforcement. When the sheriff and the district attorney both tell me that they don't have sufficient staffing to prosecute misdemeanors, being a former prosecutor myself, it makes me nervous. And so we need to restructure some of these funding mechanisms. We need to look at with the money that is going to the county hospital, and right now it is close to $40 million out of the general fund, or $90 million out of the general fund, and we need to ensure that slowly we bring it in a reasonable fashion as more monies become available from federal health care. That money then coming from the general fund to the hospital, we are going to be much less dependent upon. And we need to then shift that over to law enforcement. We have grants coming from the state which are going into law enforcement. Yesterday I sat in the county budget meeting and heard how we will be able to fund additional sheriffs. We are going to be able to fund additional district attorneys. Where we really need to emphasize our efforts is on economic development. We need to build up, once again, our tax base. We need to help our property tax level increase as we work to help businesses grow. We need to increase our sales tax as well. As we move in that direction, we will be able to have additional revenue that we can move over to public safety and ensure that we do provide the very services that our communities demand.
Perfect timing. Tommy, would you like a chance to respond?
Sure. I think it's important that we're consistent and that we say what we mean. When Candace and I spoke to the Contra Costa Times editorial board, I heard that very strong reservations about taking that $40 million, maybe $1 million a year, and so when it became clear that there was a $1 billion budget, I stressed, no, we need to move that $40 million, maybe $20 million at a time, two shots, and still got reservations at maybe $1 million a year. We don't want to decimate the healthcare programs. I hear the support for public safety, and yet in the same Times editorial, she said that she and Danville just laid off a police officer. So there's this protection of public safety, there's this desire not to impact the county hospital, and then I hear different things. So I think we need to be consistent. And what I want you to know is that I will fight to ensure that taxpayers' dollars are managed effectively so that we can invest in police services, fire services, infrastructure. I will support the urban limit line, the urban growth boundary, and efforts to ensure that we have clean air, water, and open space. And I'll continue to promote, after 18 years involved with economic development organizations, I'll continue to promote growth and job creation by supporting business-friendly policies, including simplifying the business processes for small business and cutting regulations that hurt local small business.
Thank you. Candace, would you like to continue?
Sure. I think the reality, and perhaps it's something that I've realized serving on city councils, is you can't just shift $40 million from a program and not backfill it somehow. And so always you need to say, how can we shift the money but in a reasonable fashion? And certainly if we can do it faster than $1 million a year, that would be fantastic. But we do have some very important health, human safety, providing human medical programs within the state that we need to address, and within the county that we do need to make sure we're providing. So certainly law enforcement needs that money, but you can't just do it overnight. The other thing that's really important is Danville did not lay off a police officer. As part of our budgeting process, sometimes we don't fund a police officer if we don't have the money available. We contract with the sheriff's office. It's very important that the relationship we have with the sheriff, we are able to have that discretion. If we aren't able to afford it, we don't use that money. And that's how Danville has been so successful in keeping monies in reserve, in being able to take on projects such as the Veterans Memorial Building that's being dedicated this Saturday, because we used our money wisely in Danville. We also have very strong economic development programs that we've developed in Danville that can carry over into the county, that we can help businesses so that they can flourish, so that they can grow, as we partner with the chamber and we help our businesses through grants. These are the same programs we can take countywide to help the budget.